This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is Boyd Cohen. Boyd is the CEO and co-founder of the Internet of Mobility Network and a Wheelcoin, which is a new move to earn app or game or platform. I'm sure we'll learn all about it today. Hey, welcome to the show, Boyd.
Thanks, Andy. It's a pleasure to be on this side of the mic after listening to the podcast for probably the better part of a year.
Really? Hey, well, that is nice of you to say, Boyd. Always good to hear from regular listeners. Even better to have regular listeners on the show on the other side of the mic. As you've said, let's do what we do at the beginning of the show, Boyd. I'm sure you know how this goes, but could you please, introduce yourself? Let's hear a little bit about your professional life, I suppose, and the lead up to the Internet of Mobility and Wheelcoin.
Yeah, so I'm from the States. I guess your listeners can tell by my accent. I live in Spain now. I spent my educational career in the U.S. and in 2001, I left the U.S. with a PhD in entrepreneurship. Really got focused on sustainability and entrepreneurship and innovation and smart cities, and spent the last 2 decades in that field, kind of doing a very weird thing of bouncing between academic positions and founder of sustainable startups. So IAMOB is my 6th company, and they've all been in the sustainability space. I think the other thing, maybe 2 more things. Published 3 books in related fields around low carbon economy and smart cities and blockchain technology. So all kind of come together with IAMOB. And I've also been, active in contributing to Fast Company and other places. I'm currently a contributor to CoinDesk as well. So yeah, I've blended this sort of weird career path between academics and entrepreneurship, all focused on trying to accelerate sort of a low carbon, more sustainable, more inclusive economy. And here we are.
Very nice, Boyd. And one of the reasons we connected is because I know you've spent time here in Auckland, New Zealand, which of course is where I'm based, Boyd. But what were you doing here?
Wow, what a beautiful country. I spent part of one of my first academic positions was at University of Victoria in Canada on Vancouver Island. And the few times I've been in New Zealand, it reminds me so much of Vancouver Island, just beautiful nature and, great cities and great people. So yeah, I've had a great time there. IAMOB was our second investor, was a company I think directly or indirectly, is Centrality, which was, an Auckland-based sort of DApp ecosystem play that was founded, I want to say 2016, 2017. They did their ICO back in the boom days and raised something like 150 million. They created a portfolio to invest in promising crypto projects as sort of like completed their ecosystem. So I traveled twice for activities related to Centrality, as well as a blockchain conference there with Blockworks. And actually before that, I was invited as an expert to evaluate some national government smart cities projects by one of your national government agencies. But that time I went to, I want to say, Wellington. So I've been to Auckland a few times and Wellington, and happy to go back, even though it's a really long journey.
Yes, yes, indeed. And of course, I am familiar with the Centrality crew. There's a number of people there that I know. Of course, Aaron McDonald, I guess he's probably the I don't know what you'd call it. What is he? The CEO, the founder, the leader of the Centrality ecosystem. Now, of course, they're very well known in the Web3 space. I suppose for certainly in this part of the world, really spearheading the Web3 NFT ecosystem revolution, whatever you want to call it, Boyd.
I agree. They've evolved as a business. So like when they invested in us, they were really building out Centrality as this DApp ecosystem that was, built on their own sort of not proprietary, but their own blockchain platform. And they do have some of those components still very active and growing around wallets and various other features. But as you said, the NFT and metaverse space, they basically decentralized Centrality, if you will, and they basically had invested in or engaged in some very intriguing projects, mostly all around the metaverse space. And most of the team from Centrality has now actually been sort of allocated to help grow these other projects that loosely speaking, I would say would fall under a metaverse umbrella.
Exactly right, Boyd. All right, well, let's move back to what you're up to then, Boyd. So I suppose, the Internet of Mobility. What is that?
Yeah, we were founded in 2018, so we've been at this a while. We're, going through our second bear market. One of our investors recently said something to me I loved, which is he likes to invest in camels, not unicorns. I don't know. Have you ever heard that phrase before?
I have not specific, not with the camel remix on that. No, what does that mean?
I hadn't either. And I asked him the same thing. I'm like, what do you mean? I've never heard that. And my PhD's in entrepreneurship. I've been in the field forever. I've never heard that terminology before. And he said the idea of a camel is that it can survive very harsh conditions for long periods of time, walking through deserts in heat, storing water, being resilient, adaptive. And it's a real animal that's, managed to survive through everything. Whereas the unicorn is this fictitious animal designed to have artificially high rates of growth and all the rest of it, but they often come crashing when, the shit hits the fan, when the markets go the wrong direction and all the rest of it. So I think, that does definitely reflect our journey, because we're now going through, the second bear market in crypto and COVID, which, I believe you have some personal experience with, as well as, the rest of the world does too. But, COVID hit transportation mobility extremely hard. So, we've been through a lot of winters. But the vision from day one for IAMOB, which is, as you said, the Internet of Mobility, was a decentralized network, a permissionless network that seamlessly connected the world's mobility services. So think taxis, scooters, bikes, parking, EV charging, trains, transit, in some kind of permissionless network that would allow any user connected to that network to discover, route, book, and pay for any mobility service anywhere in the world that's connected to that network. So taking it down a level to say, okay, well, what does that practically mean? The idea is, we've got tens of thousands of shared mobility fleets, like scooter fleets and taxi fleets, all of them all around the world. They're very fragmented. They each have their own app. They're all Web 2 walled gardens. Then you have, legacy players like rail and transit, tens of thousands of those around the world. And then you have 1.5 billion privately owned vehicles. And these are all currently extremely fragmented parts of the mobility ecosystem. And as I mentioned when we started the discussion about my own career journey, I've always been passionate about how can you leverage technology to accelerate the path to the low carbon economy. And it's been my belief, and we continue to believe this, that if you can tackle this coordination and fragmentation problem of mobility with this hybrid model of global and local, you could accelerate people's choice towards shared and sustainable mobility and away from their dependence on the car, which, as you know, in New Zealand is still a problem in many countries around the world.
Yeah, that's right, Boyd. Well, explain this a bit more then. So, bring together some of the different kinds of vehicles and how this can be pulled together. It sounds quite ambitious. I guess it's a longer term play, Boyd. What are some of the bits and pieces that need to start to come together to link this up?
No, you're definitely right about the ambition and the length of time to pull it off. There's a technology challenge of creating a platform that can facilitate seamless integration of all these services and then make them accessible to other interfaces, because we never wanted to own the end user ourselves with the core IAMOB vision. It was about being a protocol that would be permissionless. And you basically create this plug and play mobility marketplace and let any enterprise, say an airline, a rail operator, a football club, a hotel chain, could tap into this mobility marketplace and make it available inside their own interface, their own website, their own mobile app, their kiosk, so that their users can seamlessly move around the city they're in or the country they're traveling to, without having to download all these local apps, and then to be able to see and discover and unlock and pay for all these services. So it's taken us 4 years to be truly commercial scale with our technology. So 100,000 lines of code, a long journey it's taken us to get to this point, but we are in live commercial deployment in Europe and in the US now. We did one of our very first trials, by the way, was in Wellington. That was many years ago.
Yeah.
So what we do is we have these, I think most of your listeners that have listened to a lot of your podcasts, that, you know, you have a fairly tech savvy audience. So this probably isn't speaking over most of their heads, but you know, all these different fleet operators, whether they're train operators or a scooter company or a taxi company like Uber or Bolt, they have these APIs. And APIs are these sort of methods of communicating that share data about their service to other third parties. So what we did is built a platform that allows us to seamlessly integrate all these APIs into one platform and provide a routing engine that allows a user connected to this platform to combine journeys, so that they could say, maybe get a recommendation to take a scooter to the train station. And instead of having all scooter apps on your phone everywhere you are, you could just tap into this network and unlock the nearest scooter, regardless of who the provider is, regardless of which city you're in. That technology is now commercially deployed. Now, having said that, it's like when we started in 2018, the vision was fully decentralized Web3 from day one. We realized how naive we were. I mean, when you think about it now, and in hindsight, in retrospect, it's kind of obvious that in 2018, blockchains were not ready. You know, today we talk about layer 2s and layer 3s and DAO tooling and all these things you can do to sort of accelerate and increase transactions and all the rest of it that didn't exist back then in 2018. So that was one of many reasons the market wasn't ready for our vision. So we basically built the whole thing as a Web2 platform and started commercializing it as Web2. And now we're just now in the process of decentralizing and tokenizing that core platform.
Okay, sounds good then, Boyd. And you said that one of the first trials took place here in New Zealand in Wellington. That's actually where I'm from. But now that you've got another 1 or 2 trials happening in Europe and the US. So maybe just talk through how that is going, where that's happening, and I suppose, give us a sense of the scale of these trials.
Yeah, so we did several other trials. We did one with Ford Motor Company in Pittsburgh. We did one with Renfe, the Spanish rail operator in the US. And we did one with Skåne Trafiken in Sweden. So we were sort of, I know there's a common theme down under where you're from as well, around sort of global from day one, but we always embrace that mindset as a company. So we were never really geographically constrained with what we were building or where we were trying to deploy. But now we're not doing pilots anymore. The core IAMOB platform is in commercial deployment. So we are deploying right now at London Northeastern Rail, which is a UK rail operator that operates from London to Aberdeen, Scotland. They service 20 million annual passengers. They have some very big ambitions to use our technology, similar with Brightline Trains in the US, which is a private rail operator owned by SoftBank. In both those cases, because they're both rail operators, what's the use case of IAMOB's technology? The use case is to accelerate more adoption of rail. Rail operators are increasingly realizing that one of the barriers is the fragmentation of the mobility market making it more complex for their potential passengers to figure out how they can get to and from the train station, to and from their origin and ultimate destination, and whether they'll make it to their meeting on time and all the rest of it. And a lot of cases, for example, for intercity rail operators that connect two cities or multiple cities, their competition is the car for long distance journeys and or even sometimes short haul flights. And so what they're trying to do is leverage our technology to tackle this coordination and fragmentation problem so that it's very seamless for a passenger of these rail operators to actually do an entire door-to-door journey from their hotel or their apartment to the office meeting in another city without having to download a bunch of different apps and trying to coordinate their schedule and figure out how they can make it all work. So that's actually what we're live deployed in with Brightline Trains in Florida, and London Northeastern Rail goes, well, it's actually live in testing right now, but it'll be live with real passengers starting in January.
Very nice again, Boyd. Thank you. And I can absolutely see the real need for something like this. So, look, I hope those trials go well. Let's move, Boyd, to Wheelcoin. Is Wheelcoin part of this Internet of Mobility or related? What is Wheelcoin?
Yeah, definitely. And I listened to your podcast that wasn't that long ago with the founder of Sweatcoin. So
yes,
your loyal listeners will actually be very, I think what I'm about to say will resonate with them because they'll be aware of the space of move to earn. Yeah, Wheelcoin is about leveraging our expertise in mobility and tackling fragmentation of mobility and our ecosystem of mobility services around the world. So, for example, I haven't even named them yet, but we have, as partners in the supply chain connected to our network, companies as big as Uber and Bolt, Tier, Voi, and many others around the world that are literally billion-dollar companies that operate large fleets and are exposing their vehicles and services to our network. So we have these relationships with these suppliers already, but our traditional enterprise deployment with a company like LNER, I mean, that sales cycle takes, say, maybe 9 or 12 months. Deployment cycle. So we don't deploy. We're not like a custom software company. So we have a product and it has API and SDK or a white label app, and the client with their system integrator can deploy it. But these big companies are really slow. And, even though we embrace the camel concept we discussed earlier, and camels don't tend to move extremely fast. So there are camel racing in the Middle East, but we want to move faster than our enterprise big customers do. And so we were looking for that flywheel that can help everything go faster. And how can we accelerate the adoption of green mobility even faster? And we came up with the idea of Wheelcoin. And what Wheelcoin is, it's a move to earn app that in the current live version, it's live in the App Store. You can download it. Your listeners can download it in iOS for the Apple and Android right now. The users earn Wheelcoin. Wheelcoin is a reward token, just like Sweatcoin works. But the design of Wheelcoin is that in the beta, which we're in right now, the user earns 1 Wheelcoin for every kilogram of avoided emission that they achieve from choosing more sustainable options compared to a normal car for the same journey. So let me give you an example. I live in outside of Barcelona in a town called Sant Cugat. And from Sant Cugat, I ride my bike from my house to the train station. I take the train to downtown Barcelona, to Plaza Catalunya, and then I walk to our offices. That journey, what Wheelcoin does is it compares each part of that journey to how many emissions I would have generated if each part of that journey was done in a normal car, not an electric car. And I earn, for every kilogram of avoided emission, I earn 1 Wheelcoin. So in some ways, this is not true, but I like to kind of say that what Wheelcoin is kind of like a stable coin to climate. So we're not going to deviate from 1 Wheelcoin equals 1 avoided kilogram of emissions from a car. That's the only way you can earn Wheelcoin. It's a fair launch. for the reward tokens. So it's not like we as founders own any of the tokens. Well, I have 100 and some Wheelcoin now because I've earned it since we launched. Okay, so that's what Wheelcoin is about in the current iteration. You earn Wheelcoin from moving green, and what we've already started deploying is that users can start to use Wheelcoin. The utility becomes things like burning Wheelcoin for discounts on green mobility services. So if you go back to what I described in our discussion in the early part of this around how Wheelcoin is and what IAMOB does in our relationship with the mobility ecosystem, we're leveraging those relationships to offer discounts with DOT, with Bolt, with Tier, with some of these big players who are offering discounts to Wheelcoin users in return for burning Wheelcoin. So what we're trying to do is create this sort of hybrid model. This is also very similar to Sweatcoin if you think about it, because one of the biggest utility components of Sweatcoin has been that their users can burn Sweatcoin and get discounts on fitness-related stuff. Well, what we're doing is giving users discounts on green mobility stuff. And our ambition is that Wheelcoin over time will become the world's largest community of green mobility users, whether you use trains, bikes, scooters, electric cars, or whatever, and you get rewarded for moving green. You can book and pay for green mobility services and get discounts on them. And you can be part of this growing community that's trying to, you think about COP27 and all the sort of politicians sitting around, meeting rooms trying to debate like one line of an agreement for how we might address climate. But all of us as normal people, we want to just like be part of the solution without getting bogged down in that. And that's what we're trying to do with Wheelcoin.
Very well said, Boyd. Thank you. And, the way I kind of think about these types of enterprises, Wheelcoin, Sweatcoin. Boyd, you'll be familiar, and listeners will be too, with apps like what is it called? I think it's called Nike Run. Strava is a big one. All the cyclists, they love that Strava app. And if apps like that could, they more run on, I suppose, the Web2 model, where it's just a simple, hey, 5 stars for completing your 10-mile run or ride today. But if you can take that a step further, add a kind of a more detailed reward system is one way of describing it, I suppose. And the utility of that is, as you've started to articulate, Boyd, is getting those discounts on, services from all those different partners. So I think if, once people learn that they can take an app experience that they're already using to track their fitness goals or their commute activities and start to gamify it. Monetize is probably the wrong word, but certainly gamify and reward themselves for doing it, then it seems like a bit of a no-brainer, Boyd.
Andy, you hit it right on the head there. There's the gamification component, which is really driving everything we're doing in the design of Wheelcoin to try to make it fun, really, and rewarding to move greener. We did a poll of our users to find out how many of them have found already that they're changing their habits because of Wheelcoin. And it was just under 20%. It was like 18 point something percent of our current beta users self-professed to changing some of their behavior just because they know that they can earn more Wheelcoin, and it's gamifying their lifestyle in a way towards a greener path, which most people feel good about. And the other thing that you just said that's really interesting that we've discovered. So when we started Wheelcoin, we were only thinking about it as a B2C play that could help accelerate the adoption of IAMOB, the sort of mobility network that we built, and our relationships with the mobility supply, and basically accelerate the adoption of green mobility. But what we hadn't fully appreciated, and now it's amazing to us how big the opportunity is that companies now increasingly are trying to figure out how to measure and reward and encourage their employees for moving greener. So right now, there's this thing called Scope 3 emissions in climate and carbon accounting. Scope 3 emissions are indirect externalities that generate carbon emissions from your business activity, but they're not something you can easily control as a company. Many companies' number one source of scope 3 emissions, and actually in the case of like consultancies and banks and companies that don't actually manufacture things, often the number one overall source of emissions is actually from employee mobility and travel. But the companies have no way to properly document this. We've discovered that the companies that are now either legally or regulatorily required to do it or voluntarily choosing to report scope 3 emissions, when it comes to employee mobility, what they do right now is some kind of survey. One of the world's most famous and largest and recognized multinational companies told us what they do right now is in some of their offices, they have a box where employees, when they arrive to work, can write on a piece of paper how they arrived that day. And if they arrived in a green mode, they're eligible to win some random prize at the end of the day. And that's the path they have to tracking how their employees move, measure the emissions, and reward something better. So what we've discovered is there's massive untapped need from companies who want to actually have anonymized data about the emissions of their employee mobility. But what they love about Wheelcoin is something you just said. Not only do they get data they didn't have before, but Wheelcoin is a path to make it fun and gamify that their employees actually move greener and can be rewarded for it. So, I think we probably as a society undervalue the role that gamification can have. We always think about blockchain and gaming as like metaverse and virtual worlds with goggles, but actually there's a lot of other use cases of blockchain and gamification that can also have great impacts on planet and our lives.
Absolutely, Boyd. I like it. Sounds great, my man. Well, let's go to a break, Boyd, and then it'll be fun running you through the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take round, I think, because you'll have heard it before. So it's always good to run those kind of guests through the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take round. But before we do that, please, for anyone that has been listening and they're thinking, well, I'm ready to gamify my fitness activity or my commute schedule, potentially both, and even look to get rewarded for doing so and feel good about doing something good for the planet even. Man, I sound like a bit of a cliche here, but look, this is the world we're moving towards, Boyd. Where should people go to learn about the Internet of Mobility? And of course, how do they, where do they get the Wheelcoin app?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So IAMOB.net is the core website for the IAMOB platform. Wheelcoin, which is Wheelcoin, but with .in at the end. So it's wheelco.in is the website, which also has a link directly to both of the apps. And me personally, you can reach me via Twitter at Boyd Cohen.
Awesome. Thank you, Boyd. All right, we'll be back in 1 second.
For crypto indices and benchmarking, Brave New Coin's powerful indexing engine can calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. Brave New Coin's custom indices team delivers experienced consultancy, premium data, and trusted calculation. Contact BNC today to find out more.
And boom, we are back, and I'm with Boyd Cohen, CEO, co-founder, Internet of Mobility Network, and the Wheelcoin Move to Earn app. Boyd, as I think you are aware, I like to finish each podcast with a very quick round of rapid-fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
I am, although I haven't prepared my answers yet because that would be boring. So let's see how it goes.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of, rapid fire hot takes. It's just kind of, hot take style opinions off the top of your head, as we like to say in the rap game. Boyd, question one for you is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
So I'm rarely a maximalist about anything, and I'm definitely not about crypto, definitely multi-chain.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd say that, Boyd. All right, well, what would you say then is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I think I would say that basically every industry is going to be transformed by crypto, and over time it's going to be ubiquitous, and most of us and the world will never even know they're doing things on crypto rails. I know it's hard to believe right now given how clunky the UX and UI is in crypto, but we will get there, trust me.
Absolutely. And I suppose, related to that question or your answer there, Boyd, it's a quote by Bill Gates, who famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So I suppose with that in mind, move to earn style apps even, or the Internet of Mobility. What does it start to look like in 10 years' time?
I think, if you talk about IAMOB as a platform that's designed to sort of tackle fragmentation, I think every industry is going to go through this, kind of similar to my last answer, in the sense of, Web3 tools facilitating permissionless networks that tackle fragmentation and coordination at scale, while also sort of empowering users and participants to sort of co-own and govern the platform. I think that is definitely the future. And it's hard for me to find any industry, whether it's energy or mobility or other forms of production, cooperative forms of production that can be scaled better and revenues can be shared and transparently with blockchain. So I think what I would say is, similar to my last answer, 10 years from now, most industries, including mobility and transportation, will be well on their way to becoming permissionless Web3 platforms, and mobility and transportation is one of them. And hopefully, just to tag on to that regarding your question around move to earn, I think you're going to start to see over the next several years increasing interest from the public and private sector in ways to nudge and sort of gamify and encourage people to do the right thing or the better thing. And I think Move to Earn is going to have a real place at the table for that. And surprisingly, you will probably find even public sector actors that tend to be really slow at this stuff starting to embrace it and get behind it. Maybe, in the next 10 years, you will be able to travel for free around the world on public and quasi-public transportation services, just burning your wheel coin in return for your lifestyle choices to go green.
I love it, Boyd. All right. And the flip side of that, the flip side of looking 10 years out, of course, is a quote by William Gibson, also famous, a famous quote. He said, of course, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example, Boyd, of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it? My answer would actually be around climate. So I wrote a book called Climate Capitalism in 2011. So that was literally more than 10 years ago. And, we keep talking about climate change and climate action, and more people are worried about it. And what I would say is that there's information asymmetry regarding the evidence of climate change and our role in it, and there's information asymmetry regarding the solutions to it. But the solutions are there. Think about what we're trying to do with IAMOB and Wheelcoin. There are millions of green vehicles in the world, tens of millions, scooters, bikes, electric vehicles of all kinds, transport, like rail, public transit. And yet it's all, because it's all fragmented, people tend to, default to whatever they know best, which might be their private car, it might be a normal combustion engine. So just thinking on a personal scale, but on every scale, energy, food systems, production systems with 3D printing, like there's so many pathways that exist today with existing technologies that if we could, kill this information asymmetry problem, make access more permissionless to all of these systems, make them more seamlessly connected, we could rapidly accelerate a path to a low carbon economy. And not what a lot of people think means that, well, at the sacrifice of our economic well-being. That is crap. Like the reality is we can improve our quality of life, improve our economies, and accelerate our low carbon economy
all at the same time. And in crypto, we call that refi, regenerative finance. And we like to believe that we're, part of that solution and trying to bring those kinds of solutions to scale.
Bring it on. Yes, indeed. Refi going to be huge over the next decade. All right. Well, time to close this out though, Boyd. Finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
I think this is the recency effect. So it might not be my favorite of all time, but it's my favorite right now. Actually, I'm going to, just for fun, I'll give you one really old school and then one very new school. So
please.
I took my daughter to see the E.T. Movie from Steven Spielberg from the 80s. And I don't know, there's so many cool things about that movie that when you watch it again, even as like an older adult compared to when I saw it as a kid, you're like, wow, Steven was really onto something with that one. So I'll put that one in as an old school favorite. And then a new school favorite. I'm not sure if you know this show, but it's called Manifest.
I think I haven't seen it, but I think it's on Netflix, and it's about the flight manifest of a bunch of people. I don't know, something they land in a different reality, right?
Yeah, you got it. They disappear for 5 years long. I won't say any more because some of your listeners might want to watch and don't know where it goes, but I got really hooked on that one. My family and I like to watch series together, but I travel for work a decent amount, and I had to find a series that I would watch on my own when I'm traveling, and I ended up choosing that. So when I'm not listening to your podcast and those from some others, when I'm traveling, I'm watching Manifest. So that's my latest favorite.
All right, I'm adding it to the list. And yeah, I mean, E.T., of course, an iconic movie from the 80s. Certainly, I don't know, Boyd, you and I were probably maybe of a similar generation. So, well, if not, I'm Generation X. So, of course, yeah, I mean, E.T., I saw that as a kid in the 80s. And I don't know if I've actually ever seen it again since. Boyd, I have considered, because I have a son. He's 12 years old. So if we were going to watch that as a family, probably need to do that before he gets too old and cynical.
It's a great family movie to watch. My daughter just loved it, and she thought E.T. was so cute, which of course he is. So, but there's so many lessons in there that it's like, wow, I didn't pick up on them as a child, but regarding how we are as humans and our desire to sort of own and control things, and have this alien that lands on the earth, and all these scientists want to go and like kill him and dissect him, and these innocent kids want to save him from being dissected, and the empathy, so many things you can learn from watching that as a child or as an adult. So yeah, I would recommend finding your old VCR if you still have one, pull that out.
Awesome. And it just occurs to me, Boyd, I'm sure you and your family have probably watched Stranger Things, but Stranger Things did such a great job of taking inspiration from so many of those kind of classic 80s movies, and E.T. being one of them.
You don't know how right you are. And you have, I guess, have you seen Stranger Things as well?
Of course.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my daughter wanted us to watch Stranger Things. So we got hooked on it. And when we took her to watch E.T., we left the movie. She said, "This is so much like Stranger Things." And at first I didn't make she made the connections before I did. And I started reflecting. I'm like, wow, is she right? And I'm like, she's so right. I wanted to look it up on Google. And what you just said, you validated as well, that actually the directors of Stranger Things were inspired by Steven Spielberg's movies, including E.T. And yeah, there's tons of synergy there.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Boyd. It has been a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for talking. Wheelcoin, Move to Earn, Internet of Mobility, Stranger Things, E.T., 80s movies, nostalgia. It's a great place to end the show, Boyd. Again, look, please tell people where they can find you on Twitter, and of course, where they can go to get a hold of the Wheelcoin app.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. So me personally, at Boyd Cohen in Twitter, and then the Wheelcoin website, wheelcoin with .in at the end.
is the place to learn more about Wheelcoin and actually go straight to downloading Wheelcoin and start earning by moving green right away.
Awesome. Thank you, Boyd. All the best, and bye for now. All right, there you go. That was Boyd Cohen. That was a fun one. I enjoyed talking to Boyd. Just starting to lose my voice here at the end of the show. I think, did you hear Boyd? He made a reference to me having personal experience with COVID during the show. So the reason he said that is because I have COVID, listeners. Yeah, it's my first time. Made it to here at the end of 2022, December, almost Christmas time, really. Yeah, managed to avoid COVID until now. To be fair, I'm getting over it, but yeah, I am starting to lose my voice. So I think we'll wrap it up here at the end of the show. Thank you for listening, team. Don't forget to subscribe to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you're using. Give us a 5-star rating, a nice review. Always love that stuff. But yeah, thanks, team. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.